Sullivan, but you can call me Annie for short. I'm the oldest child in my family, and my papa and mama are Irish immigrants who came over during the Great Famine, so we don't have that much. When I was 5 years old, I contracted a horrible eye disease called trachoma. I was told that it irritated the inner surfaces of my eyelids, but I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. I just know that my eyes are always sore and puffy. Also, not only but 2 years ago did my mama die of tuberculosis. We were all heartbroken for months, and Papa didn't take it too well. Soon he began to drink too much. It would hit us, and since I could barely see, it was hard to stop his beatings. Also, not only but a few months ago did he finally leave us. Now, my brother Jimmy and I have no one, and we're being sent away to the Tuskberry almshouse. A poor house. I can't believe it. It's only been 3 months since we arrived here at Tuskberry, and now the only family I have left is gone. My poor baby brother Jimmy is dead. He died because of the living conditions here. It's underfunded and overcrowded. Rats are everywhere, and people are dying left and right from the horrible treatment and diseases. State officials are coming to investigate the conditions at Tuskberry. Now is my opportunity to escape this wretched place after 4 long years. Once I get the opportunity to talk to one of the officials, I'm going to beg them to allow me to leave and go to a school for the blind, since I can barely see because my eyesight has gotten so bad. It worked! I enrolled in the Perkins School for the Blind on October 7, 1880. I am so excited and filled with joy, but also with fear of what could happen. I am now 14 years old as I begin my journey. I am very undereducated. I can't even read or write my own name. Also, because of how I act and my ignorance of proper manners, not only do the students ridicule me, but even some of the teachers. I thought that I would find peace while at Perkins, but instead, more hardships and trials await me. However, I do not let all these difficulties I've encountered throughout my life at Perkins and childhood injure my attitude, but rather, they strengthen me. I put my mind in my studies, and I quickly excel in my academics. In the past 2 years, I am delighted to say that I have had multiple eye surgeries, allowing me to clearly see and read print. I'm so excited! It's finally graduation day. It is June 1st, 1886, and I just finished giving my valedictorian speech, saying, "Let us go cheerfully, hopefully, and earnestly, and set ourselves apart to find our especial part. Once we have found it, willingly and faithfully perform it. For every obstacle we overcome, every success we achieve, tends to bring many closer to God and make life more as He would have had it." Wow, I said these words to my fellow graduates, not even knowing my especial part of life. Not long after, the Keller family reaches out to the Perkins School in search of a teacher for their deaf, blind, and mute daughter. Alexander Graham Bell, a close friend of mine, an educator of the deaf, soon directs them towards me, where I am tasked with teaching her. I knew this would be a tedious encounter, so before I even begin to teach her, I am studying some of the reports of Laura Bridgman's education and some of my other teachers' methods to try and better prepare myself for such a challenge. I arrive at Helen Keller's house in Tuscumbia, Alabama on March 3rd, 1887, which becomes known to Helen as her soul's birthday. Even though we come from different backgrounds, we are immensely similar. Even though we both have encountered hardships and difficulties, instead of pitching a fit as Helen does, I rose above those difficulties, and now I will help Helen do the same. For the first few weeks, Helen kicks and screams and punches me because of my methods. I do not let her do as she pleases, but rather, I teach her proper manners. She never quite realized she was different until she was 6 years old, when she realized that people communicated to each other using their mouths and words, while she used frantic movements to communicate her needs. This confusion led to her daily and sometimes hourly outbursts. Also, because of how she acted around the house and how her parents spoiled her and treated her with such pity, I take her out to a cottage on their land so I can have one-on-one teaching time. I must have patience and constantly be firm. And through my firm love, I won Helen's heart, and now I can begin teaching her using some of the methods Perkins' first director, Samuel Howe, created. I begin by fingerspelling the names of familiar objects into Helen's hand, hoping she would understand. Of course, Helen enjoys this finger play, but never quite understands what I am saying. It isn't until I pump water over her hand, while also spelling the word water into her hand, does she finally realize that I am spelling a word. The joy and excitement is unbearable. I finally realized that in order to teach a deaf-blind student, I have to explore and create new methods for each particular child. After Helen's mental breakthrough, she begins craving for more learning. And as I fingerspell the names of familiar objects into Helen's hand, she instantly recognizes them. And within the first 6 months, Helen learns 575 words. Before my teaching time with Helen began, she referred to herself as a phantom, a dark entity, deprived of light and existence. But as she grew in her learning abilities and explored and encountered new words, she began to refer to herself not as a phantom, but as Helen Keller. When I take Helen to the Perkins School in May of 1888, it is a wonderful learning experience for Helen as she joins the children in both work and play. Helen is so excited and says, "I am delightful to find that nearly all of my new friends could spell with their fingers. Oh, what happiness to talk freely with other children, to feel at home in the great world." As her teacher, it brings me great joy that after 3 years of encountering trials and difficulties, Helen speaks her first words saying, "I am not dumb anymore." Helen's learning of this skill included her putting her hand on my face. After experimenting for a time, we found that if she would place her thumb on the throat, her first finger on the lips, and her second finger on the nose, she could feel the vibrations of spoken words and sounds. With her thumb on the throat, she could feel the hard G and the K sound. With her first finger on the lips, she could feel the B and the P sound. And with her second finger on the nose, she could feel the nasal sounds, allowing her to clearly speak and understand. In 1900, Helen and I began the tedious and difficult task of exploring college as we were little at Radcliffe. From there, I fingerspell into Helen's hand all of her lectures and assignments. It is a major victory for us both when she graduates. Not long after, Helen begins to write her first book with my help and instruction. In 1903, Helen's first autobiography, The Story of My Life, is published. From there, Helen continues and writes 14 books with my instruction. It is 1927, and it has been 6 years since Helen and I have begun speaking to the public on the subject of blindness, while also exchanging new teaching techniques. We have addressed 250,000 people at 249 meetings in 123 cities. We began giving lectures and tours in 1921 as part of the American Foundation for the Blind. My beloved Helen continues and travels around the world to 39 different countries, speaking on behalf of the disabled. I could not be more proud. As a friend and a teacher, Helen encourages and inspires many governments to build schools for the disabled. As soon as Helen and I met, we knew we belonged together. We were inseparable from the time I began teaching her. Neither one of us would have accomplished all of our feats if it were not for the other. As Helen Keller says, "The most important day I remember in all of my life is the one on which my teacher, Anne Mansfield Sullivan, came to me." Thank you.